time or two before a spirit presence is in human form, and every time we are, it's kind of dramatic. Folks always find things happening, you know. Oh, that's when life finds its rock and its roll. And baby, it better roll with it, because that's the only choice it has now, man. You see, quite some time ago, 25, 30 years ago, there was a shift. And it came in so quietly that hardly anyone even noticed it, you know, except 2 or 3 or maybe 10 or 12 or whatever it was. It wasn't too many. But, you know, all of a sudden it happened, and there it was, you know. And ever since then, I mean, it seems, you know, in this dramatic world, this matrix thing, to be going in some rather unusual ways, you know, and it doesn't seem like ascendancy at all. It seems like descendancy, don't it, you know? Down into the toenails of darkness and let them claw you a little bit. No, I don't think so. Enough of that shit already, right? See, darling, so when I say, you know, get the roll in your rock, man, the roll in your soul, and roll with it, baby, is because the flow is already here and has taken us that way. We're already passed through the gateway quite some time ago again, you know, and now we're there. We're arriving where we've always been. Stepping into that moment outside of time, which is all of time, and all that we've created within that and around it too, man, you know, and it all kind of collapses in, becomes one big loving ball of flame we call the sun, inside of the heart of the mother, which is one, a golden heart rising up from our campfire of love, you know, and causing and creating the reality to be what it truthfully be. And there, unraveling its mystery, the tree of life arises, and we find ourselves circling there and playing there in those Elysian fields of life, provided by the mother's love forevermore, babies. You know, we're free to be creative now. We can be trusted. 100% and then some, babies. We can be trusted in the hands of creation, with the hands of creation within us. We've proven ourselves again and again in the discreative way, in the unlove. We've proven ourselves to be incredibly endurable in the love, that we could take on the most grotesque forms there could ever be and express and experience some of the harshest and meanest of realities. You know, we didn't even know what that word meant when we stepped into this as spirit presences. We sure as hell do now, don't we? The babies. You know, the anger that comes from all that pain that sometimes we refuse to release because we've gotten such a great gain from it. We also know it's the energy that compelled us through it. Even if it killed us, it cured us each and every time and kept our heart alive because it gave us motivation. That pain, I mean, you know, ancient pain, the pain of the feeling, the agony that one feels when you're weaned away from the mother, you know, and you no longer have that energetic direct connection with her heart and soul in the way you did before, you know. And every child grieves over that. It's like the loss, it's like the death into this reality. I think that's when we die into this reality and become the zombie-like controlled robotic beings that can hardly think on our feet anymore, that we become. You know, I think that's where it happens. And a lot of times, you know, these days, of course, with us and our modern attitudes, a lot of times a woman won't even nurture her child, you know. It's a sad thing when that doesn't happen, or when physicality gets in the way, because that's a real important thing for a child to have, you know. Without that, you kind of lack an anchor in this life. But it's the weaning away that just kills you. That's when you begin to experience the harsh reality of this earth. That's when you really know it's not going to be real good here from here on out. You know, it's going to be a little ruggedy, you know. You better get some rock in your roll, babies. And learn to roll with the rock. And rock with the roll, babies. Because it's the music of your soul being drawn forward by the removal of what seemed like the mother's love. Now you take that same concept and you move it back to the beginning of time, where we really did kind of step away from the mother's love in a weaning sort of way and agreed to live in a world that was absent of her presence in a perceptual way. Pretty much. We preserve the elements of it, and that's why we can be trusted with creation, because we kept her alive, despite the tremendous abuse we seem to heap upon her, you see. You have to understand this mother love energy. It goes beyond the pain of agony. It goes beyond anything we've ever known or conceived of as love. I mean, it's the enduring love that is unending forever. I mean, it's there always. It's consistent in all of creation. It's there inside of us as a habitation in the human form. And it's there asking us to release ourselves, to be the sweet children of life that we are, back in that divine little garden of love, the planetary paradise, the mothership love, Gaia. A creation of our own heart, of the universal heart, a focusing of that energy in that, godlike sort of presence, but it's really not something removed from creation. It's creation expressed in its heart. Focusing that heart together and bringing forth children that can express that heart as the creation, you see. So it's a mutual thing. It's a dynamic, a new dynamic in which we now live more fully presently, because we have graduated from the school of hard knocks, man. And got over our obsession with hard knockers too, man. You know, we're setting ourselves free, man, you know. This is why there's been such an obsession with the memories, you know, because it represents something, you know, in that very deep sub-psychological way. The little angry little child that feels separate from the mother knows that love exists there, and that's why it's so damn fascinated with those things, you know. But the time is present within us as we reunion with that energy inside and realize we were never really weaned away from the mother, that it's been her consistent love that has got us through it all. And I'm talking of the larger mother, not necessarily the physical mothers that embody her. You know, it goes both ways, though. It does. And, you know, I mean, she's always, always, always. It's the undying love, the unending love, the ever-present love that just cannot be taken from you, no matter how abject or obscene you become. And, babies, it's been grotesque here. We've gone to some of the worst God-blessed forms that the unimaginative creation could bring up, man. I mean, ugly and terminally ugly. Make Godzilla look handsome. I mean, come on, guys. We have done some pretty gritty, shitty things here and created some pretty awful creations inside of ourselves and in our imaginative way, too. And thank God we did it in kind of that dreaming way, so that we really didn't have to, have to go back and clean up all of creation. And we can do that right now, here and now, by realizing our presence in the dream. Yeah. See, that's how you begin to awaken. You realize that you are dreaming. Isn't that what wakes you up usually when you're having a real profound dream and it's kind of come to a kind of a conclusionary or an expansive sort of place, and it's time to step away from it and live it back here in the terminal 3D? You remind yourself it's a dream, but you don't feel it that way. It's alive. It's alive, even though it's a dream. It's something you're in. It's a moment, you know, that exists, you know, whether it's something that's objectionable or as pleasant as experiences you could dream. It's still a presence in a dream, and your consciousness of that presence is what, you know, removes you from it, brings you, the actor, out of the play and back into the real life that you be, so you can go and play some more. And not have to do this gritty, harsh darkness in that way. You know, that old role's done, man. You know, it's going to take some getting used to. It really is, because we've gotten so used to divining our world in good and bad terms, you know, and everything else in it, too. The food we eat and all that, you know, all that pleases or displeases us, we've learned to define in that way, you know. I mean, whether we like it or not, you know, whether we're a total, complete atheist or the most devout Catholic-aholic ever there could be, you know, it doesn't really matter, you know. We're just like in the same space together, and, you know, really we're all participating in this creation in the way we ought to be, or else we wouldn't be doing it. You know, our examples, you know, is self-correcting energy in this reality. So whatever we're living, whether it seems contrary or very pro-life, it's really all pro-life. It all moves in one direction, because contrary experience creates the need to step beyond it. You know, and when you do, of course, to realize yourself in more expansive ways, because you felt the removal, you felt the absence of the undying love. And then you had to personify it in this presence outside yourself, because that's where you felt it was. That's where God came from. You know, and you created them in that way, and you made them an authority figure, you know, because you felt like you had to be subdued, because you didn't feel connected. Not with a father, but with the mother. The father's inside of her. He resides with her. That's why what our small suggestion, our little shadow of lovemaking suggests to us, that, you know, he's in her always. You know, there is no absence of that presence. You know, there are women that have such fertility occasionally that they don't have to have, you know, a partner to become pregnant if that's what their body desires to be in the universe too. You know, it has happened. I know women personally that have had babies, you know, without having to be bred up. Oh man. And it has happened in recent times, last 20 years or so that I know about. That's just one or two instances. Who knows? It may be happening in, you know, across the earth, because see, we have the full presence of heart within us. In other words, that divine masculine is always present. You know, it's the sunlight, it's the warmth in the mother's love. You see how they're the same love now, just expressed a little differently? When we personify it outside of ourselves and make it the sun in the sky, then the beams are very direct and firm, and we know it's always going to be there. We know the sun's coming up in the morning, going down at night, etc., and going to bring life present, and blah, blah, blah. It's a very direct energy, but it's fiery, and it looks like the flames of hell. But that's the eclipse over the sun that you're seeing. That's a film somebody ran across it, you know. They wanted to fool us for a while. Well, they did, and we did. We fooled ourselves, because it was a necessary paradigm. We had to see it outside of ourselves and personify it that way in order to feel the absence. And that made the absence a little easier to take, because then we felt like it was present everywhere. And it was, you know, again, we experienced it in a very limited way, but it gave us, you know, like the old legend, there's no atheist in the foxhole. When your life is sincerely challenged, that's when you start to realize how blessed you are and how synchronistic this universe is in its ways. And, you know, you see the hands of angels and so forth, and at play, at work in your life, and, you know, saving your skin like I described in that old trucking tale yesterday. How about that, eh? You know, wow, but that was just one moment. But when those moments are so orchestrated, and that's when you begin to realize, boy, there's something cosmic in this reality that's more real than the reality is. Because it's more powerful. I mean, already it has, as we know, it's undone nuclear bombs. It's disarmed them. It's done all kinds of things in this reality. You know, when we're in those magic moments where, you know, our life is challenged and threatened, we begin to see that synchronicity again, you know, and start to experience it in a little different way. Again, a suggestion of what we are in creation, that our heart, its desires are always fulfilled in this creation. And that's how we create. It's through feeling. But we feel ourselves. You know, like right now, it's the restlessness, you know, the need to return home. That's why we're talking about that separation from the mother energy, and then the need, the desire it brings up, especially now that we focus it into the male child more than the female child, basically. And wow, he can hardly look upon woman without feeling this emptiness, this reminder that you're separate from the mother's love. This is what drives men insane, and women too, because they can't handle the energy of it. None of us can. Yet we embody and embrace it with great love, and it kind of purifies the activity in it too. So it's, you know, it's neither good or bad. It's just how we've chosen to preserve ourselves and get through it all. But again, I point out, as this heart arises, as we find the fulfillment of that divine nurturing love inside of ourselves, we ain't going to be craving it outside in the way that we have. And babies, it brings peace on earth, because that's where it all starts, is in the contention between the polarized male and female genders. You know, essentially, sometimes we go male and female. It's no big deal, you know, but it's still got that energy in it. The male and female still exists. Because that's the polarity, you see. And we chose to experience it in a rather ruggedy way, you know. Didn't see the smooth flows in it. Didn't see the polarity. Could be a flowing and glowing thing, and in fact it really is, you know. Ooh, but we find out now, as you know, the whole conception of creation stops stretching itself out in time and space and just brings itself, you know, the heart regenerating, the heart awakening inside of you and I and the earth. You know, changes everything. It brings the universe back in love with itself, so there is no longer a feeling of separation. Well, guess what? Then we are no longer separate from anything in creation. That love exists in all, and therefore our presence is in all of it too, because we are that love. You see how that works? Plain pure magic here in the mornings on the Coyote Medicine Show. Your wake-up call right from the heart of the universe, the universal heart that is the mother love that all are created of and supported and nurtured through creation by. We're never weaned away. We're always a part of the mother's love. It lives in us forever. And that's why we can release this old agony. In our most satanic and ugly form, she's loved us. You know, she's created, let us create hell on earth and experience it again and again and again and again. Purifying our hearts, preparing us for the appreciation of our true paradise. Again, I point out, without that removal, we couldn't be where we are now, coming back alive in the heart with such a deep, it's the answer to the most ancient yearning there ever was. It's the solution to all of the problems and situations on this earth, every one of them, in the 3D. Recognize in the heart the true reality. Being unified. Can you imagine? A man looks upon a woman and only feels a great burst of love because he recognizes what's there finally. He sees beyond the physical presence, appreciates and nurtures that too, but sees beyond that, realizes the connection with the divine that is always energized through her, that she herself has denied again and again too, because you've taught her to. We all trained ourselves in weird, sick sort of ways. But in the sickness is the recovery, and in the recovery is the appreciation for good health, for being able to rise and shine and get with the program. There's nothing like having to lay there sick and dying to make you want to come back to life really brightly, and baby, oftentimes it do, doesn't it? Well, this is one of those times, baby. We're getting with it, because we are the divine, the presence of that everlasting, undying love that nurtures the heart into being and all of its ever-present creation and loves the shit out of it. Excuse me for putting it so crudely, but it is rudimentary. It's very basic. We're dealing with the most basic attitudes of humanity, the motivational causes of everything else that seems so out of whack. The beginning of insanity is in this ancient pain that we have all carried and inherited from our ancestors, because we are the ancestors who created that separation in the first place. First we came and experienced a place, something like what I was describing before, where the Tree of Life is. It's a very beautiful place, and it's a great big large continent, huge beyond comprehension, man. And we kept, this is where we got to adjust into the idea of physicality and polarities and shit, and we began to express ourselves as male and female, but in a much more divine way, a much more connected way, because we still had conscious presence in our heart. We still knew we were this heart. We knew we were angelics in human form, here to experience a whole new way of being, etc. We were completely connected, not separated or severed from the creation in any way. So we could still experience its fullness, and we did. On earth, in earth, we did some of the most profound, creative experiences back in those days in this ancient continent. We called Lemuria, or Mu, or, those are terms that people have given it. It's paradise, perfectly put, lived and expressed in this organic form of earth. It's the glittery, glowing life that I keep describing, the zippity-doo-dah-day, etc. It's all of that and then some, It's our true place of being. But after that, then we laid down. In a sense, we stepped out of that paradigm into this one, and became fractured and insane, because we felt separate again. We felt like we were weaned away from the mother, just tossed in the nursery. And so, well, you guys figure it out now. I'll see you in about 20 billion years, huh? That's how we felt. That's how absent from the presence we felt. And God bless it, it gave rise to a severe anger. And that's where all these so-called satanic forms of expression came from, that angry child. See, because it went both ways. The one child would sit over there and cried, bawled his eyes out and felt like hell, and the other one felt like hell too, but it got angry and says, fuck it, I'll give him hell, you know. I discreate this shit. You take it away from me, baby, I just make it something even worse than that, you know. Well, it can't be any worse than that, because that's the end of everything. So love doesn't exist, then life doesn't exist. That's real simple, you know. So we just learn to love to hate in that form. And see, that's an aspect of us we've never really wanted to deal with very well. We separated. We pushed it away from us. And the bulk of humanity went over here and hung out in the light and caused this great imbalance and made the darkness even darker and more denser and more mean and angry. And so, you know, we picked on ourselves even more harshly. But, you know, gosh, guys, we brought ourselves back to life this way. You know, we learned there can never be an absence, you know. But we sure found out what pain is, didn't we? You know, and how to express it in many, many different ways. And we found it such a motivational tool that even now it's a little difficult to surrender to the reality of the unpainful way. You know, because that means we've surrendered the last shard of anger we ever had. How can you be angry with an undying love? You know, it just doesn't work, does it? Because that undying love just stays there and smiles ever present for you. And never leaves. It's right there. Each way you turn, everywhere you turn, it's right there. Love, love, love is love. And it just doesn't go away. It just is there. And you know, when you're conscious of that presence, then that makes you that love. And you're not trying to outrun it anymore or hide from it in fear because you think you screwed up so bad, like poor old Katie Goodman. Well, I didn't screw it up. Did you screw it up? You know, I use the gentler terminology right now. In music, we can do anything. I love it. That's a great little song. It says so much. And the enthusiastic audience just makes it so real, you know, baby. Well, we're here to undo it all, and that's what we're doing, baby. By doing it up inside of ourselves, realizing our presence in this divine dream, in this divine way. As only our little coyote hearts could scheme. Because, see, that's the energy, too, that got us through. Because we could see the joke in it all. We could understand we really weren't separate at all. It was the laugh of the millennia, because we really weren't separate at all. We always carried that energy with us. Each of us rises up from the mother in every lifetime. I mean, come on. How much more poetically, symbolically truthful can you be? You know, we never lost it. It was always there. That's what gave us life and breath and nurturance in the beginning of our lives. For the most part, anyway. Got a little weird and rough at times. Shit, everybody was cuckoo, man. Everybody's been crazier than hell for a long, long time. Because we felt so separate, so isolated, yet there we were, being born of the mother into the earth each and every time. Wow. And our innards said, oh no, we're separate. And every time we got weaned away or didn't get the nipple, ooh, that anger would be there, man. That pain, that separation. Oh shit, I'm going to hang on to it forever. Baby loves that we are, you see, and it just reiterates that sense of disconnection when we are weaned physically from our mother's presence in some way or another, which we all have to do in order to walk our path here, you know. But in a sense, in this physical way, you know, because her blood lives in you as much as anybody else's does, you know. You can't leave her presence behind, or your daddy either, nobody, you know. Your ancestors are there with you. That's the blood that your parents pass into you, you know. It's the energy of all the creations and the burdens and blessings that go with it, man. And it's encoded genetically in that genetic form, yeah, but it goes even beyond the DNA. It goes way, way into the energy fields, you know, of life, from which life is created. That's the true DNA, and it's like I call it divine intelligence. And when we're tapping it into this way, we're actually satisfying the most ancient cry there has ever been, both in the man and the woman. Each grieved in a different way, and therefore learned to experience it differently. At least they thought. But every now and then there was this moment of oneness, born out of all that pain. See why we love it so much, and why it's a little hard to give it up? Because it has brought forth some of the most powerful moments of presence there has ever been. In some of the darkest places arise always the brightest faces. And the best of experience too, and the unity in those moments is sufficient energetically to keep life creating itself for eons of time. It only takes a few to get us on through. And then there's the many, and that's a plenty. That's all of us as a collective heart, gathered together in that undying love. I think we're getting it, babies. I think them old wings are starting to unruffle a bit, don't you? Wake up call. Hey, y'all. What you doing awake this early in the day? Shouldn't you go back to sleep? Here, let me sing you down, man. Let me just, help you come down off that. Oh, heck no. We never want to come down. It's no fun at all. You can never be high enough, babies. And you can never fly high enough. But when we move beyond the dimensions, there is no space nor time. There's just this place of love glowing into creation, babies, happily ever after. The eternal life of living love. From the cosmic clown born of the heart of the dove. Yes, indeedy. And in this coyote way. Ooh, help us understand and play what we're up to here today on this Free Day Friday, baby. It's going to be a hell of a beautiful weekend. Yeehaw! Hey, do you want to be here tonight? Conscious Consumer Network. Oh, Mary Jane Gateway to Paradise, hosted by you-know-who, Grandpaw Koyote. That's who. And, babies, we got a special interview with Xanthi Alexis there tonight. And then, Grandpa's later on telling one of his mighty little trucking tales. So you may want to be there. It's going to be a nice gathering around the campfire of love there as well as here right now on the Coyote Medicine Show here on the Hazy Radio. Don't you know, babies? Want to get it clear? Tune in here. HazyRadio.com. We got it on.